Here we go. You're listening to Squatch Talks Podcast. Real stories and real encounters told by real researchers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Squatch Talks Podcast.
Happy Saturday, everybody.
Hope everybody's doing well. We are excited. Tonight we got a special guest joining us. A man who needs no introduction in the Bigfoot community. I don't know how we wrangled him to come on. I don't know. I guess he really wants me to do those expedition dates. So he agreed to do our show with us. But I don't know. It's something that I wasn't expecting so soon, but we're coming towards the end of season 2. So we thought it would be great to maybe bring on a few guests that are really, big names in the Bigfoot community. And tonight is no exception. So we will be joined in a few minutes by the founder and president of the BFRO, Mr. Matt Moneymaker himself.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. Mm-hmm.
Some of you may know him from Finding Bigfoot fame, from Animal Planet's hit TV show, but we just know him as our boss.
Yep.
And he calls the shots. So, when we're asked to go investigate or put on an expedition, what do?
Call Eric. I mean, yeah, we do what we need to do.
Call Eric. So yeah, I'm ready. I got my Black Rifle Coffee Company, vanilla with cream, espresso, to your health.
I emailed them today.
And what they say?
Nothing yet.
What'd you say? What did you say?
I told them we promote their product on our podcast every week, faithfully. And I said, what can you do for us?
That's awesome.
Yeah. I didn't want to tell you until things started to come to fruition, but.
Wow. I like how you took the initiative there. That's pretty cool.
We'll see what happens. Mm-hmm.
But we can talk about.
I'm waiting for Snoop Dogg. I'm waiting for Snoop Dogg to call me. I'm going to talk to Snoop Dogg.
We have a special guest joining us. Mr. Matt Moneymaker is on the call. Oh, look at that handsome mug. Hello.
I'm here.
There he
He's
is.
Here. Hello.
Hello.
Wow. In the flesh.
His eye.
Sound really good, Matt. How's it going out on the West Coast?
It's going pretty good. I did that George Norrie thing this weekend. That was great.
That looked like a lot of fun.
It was.
Ha.
And George is like the consummate entertainer. He's really, because he comes across as this very serious guy, but he's just got such a good sense about entertaining and just in general. Who would think he gets up, he has these paranormal guests and he asks these questions, and then he gets up and he's singing Frank Sinatra songs.
That's cool.
It's just unbelievable. It was like, who would have known he did that, And they loved it. They loved it.
I would have never imagined.
Yeah. And, I'll tell you this, when I worked on the TV show, it was, I was the oldest guy. I was always the oldest guy there. I was the oldest person in the cast. And of course, I'm twice as old as the crew members. And so I always felt like I was the grandpa, the old man. Well, with these folks at this crowd, I was the baby.
That's awesome. Well, hey, he's got quite a following. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's pretty amazing. But yeah, he's well known in the paranormal community for sure.
Oh yeah, millions of listeners. He's unique.
Absolutely. But I had no idea that he did that type of entertainment in between, having guests on. So.
I wouldn't have thought, but I've done his show over the years periodically, and I was on. Before him was Katz, the guy named Katz, and then before him was Art Bell.
Art Bell.
And I did all three. I was on like in the 90s with Art Bell, and then with Katz, and they did a couple of times with Nori.
Wow.
So I've known this Tom Danheiser. Well, Danheiser, which is Nori's producer, came after Bell. So I was actually involved in that, like before Nori's producer was even involved. But anyway, so it was kind of great to be with them.
That's really cool. I'm glad you had a good time, and it went smooth, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I are about the same age. So
Yeah, I'm 57 now.
yeah, I'm right behind you, 56. So
There you go.
I'm always the older guy, you know, on the expeditions.
Yeah. And so you it's funny. You feel that, you know, people, when you're younger, you think in terms of different groups, different identity groups. And I tell people, say, the more you get older, it becomes two identity groups. It's the old people and the young people. And you're constantly aware of which group you're with and which one you're not with anymore.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
But Nathan will tell you, I run circles around the young ones, you know?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
we put you with the young ones on purpose so we can tire them out.
That's funny.
We are just thrilled to have you on. Nathan and I have been doing this now for, I don't know, about, what is it, 10 months, Nathan?
Oh, yeah, the podcast. Yeah, about
Yeah.
10 months. Yeah.
And so, hey, we couldn't think of a more interesting guest to have on to help us end season 2, you know what I mean? So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
You got into this back in the 80s, right? At UCLA when you were attending college back then. What piqued your interest though initially? I'm curious.
I was talking about the Sasquatch subject to the woman that I eventually got married to. So Dorota. So that would have been in 1985.
Wow.
And I went to get a book on the subject because I had a paperback for a year, like right after from the mid 70s when there was The Legend of Boggy Creek and this documentary in theaters called The Mysterious Monsters that had Peter Graves as the narrator.
Right.
So those two things were showing as a double feature in theaters, as if it was like a feature film, but it was these two documentaries about Bigfoots, one Boggy Creek. So I went to see that, and I would have been about 11 years old. And right after that, I got or somebody gave to me a little paperback that was the companion book for that documentary. And that documentary, the thing that it showcased was the Patterson footage, among other things, but still one of the best documentaries ever done. It did a lot of recreations, and it was very slick for its time. It interviewed scientists and had first time I ever saw Grover Krantz was in that documentary. So that companion book, I was so fascinated by it. And from 11 years old, I remember looking at it, reading it back to back, etc. And I read it so many times and took it with me so many places so I could show people these images that were in the center, the slides pages, as they call it. In other words, the photograph section in the middle of the paperback.
Right.
Then eventually the book fell apart. It just completely disintegrated because it was just, I was using it so much. And so I went to a bookstore in LA looking for a copy to see if I could get another one. Because I wanted to show Dorota, because she had never even heard of it. And heard of she heard of the Yeti and the Abominable Snowman, but just like so many Europeans and especially Germans, that's all they know is the Yeti of the Himalayas.
Right.
So I go to the bookstore in LA on Hollywood Boulevard, and back in the day, there was a lot of used bookstores around LA and Hollywood. There was a lot of them. This was obviously before the internet. People still read books, and LA was one of those places you'd come to buy used books. And then eventually there was videotapes that you could get at those stores. Anyway, so I went in one of these places on Hollywood Boulevard, and there was kind of a hippie dude behind the counter. I asked him, I'm looking for a Bigfoot book. Where would be your old used Bigfoot books? And he was kind of like, yeah, it would be over like in the UFO section, kind of in that area over there with UFO books and ghost books.
Yep.
So I went over there, and he showed me this rack of stuff, and I was just like, oh, it's going to take me a while. And I wanted to browse through it anyway to see what else I could find. And he just, as he's turning to walk away, he says, just in passing, he says, "It's really weird you ask about that, because I know a couple of guys who work near here who've seen one of those things up in the Ventura County mountains."
Oh boy.
And I was like, I'm in LA. And of course, I was thinking I wouldn't be able to do any Bigfoot research until I was retired and would have the time to go all the way up to Northern California, which for you guys on the East Coast, it's hard to appreciate how far away far Northern California is from Southern California. Right. Like the bottom of the desert. I mean, the California is the majority of the Pacific coastline on that part of the United States. In other words, the shoreline of Oregon and Washington combined is not as long as the shoreline of California. Right. So it takes you a good and it's not like when you drive to Northern California, yes, you're driving on Highway 5, straight roads for part of it, but for a lot of it, you're not on straight highways. So from where I live, it would take 12, 13 hours to drive all the way up to like the Redwoods up in the far northwest coast of California.
Right.
And that's just California. And then that's like the beginning of really what you would call the Pacific Northwest. It goes all the way from there, all the way up to Alaska.
Exactly.
So I thought that was going to be something I would do when I was retired. Mm-hmm. But when that guy said that, he said Ventura County, because I remember there had been books and stuff talking about occasional sightings in the mountains of Southern California. And you just didn't hear about it in more recent times. Anyway, so I said, "Oh, really? A couple friends tell me about these guys." Because I even had a sense then, had been around news people. So I knew how to start digging into information like that. It's just like, first of all, tell me about the people who told you this. Right. What are they? Oh, they're older guys, and which is good. If you try to figure out if somebody's bullshitting you, older guys, and they're both Vietnam vets. Okay, that's good. And one is the manager of a restaurant. It's like, okay, we're good profile. The other one's the manager of an Army-Navy surplus store, which was the only Army-Navy surplus store on Hollywood Boulevard at the time. Anyway, wow. So I'm like, these guys aren't kids or flakes. And so I got the names of the guys and where they worked, and then I went and met with them. And they were telling me how their thing is that they're amateur prospectors, of which there's a lot of that in California. People still go up and do that. They don't often advertise it for obvious reasons. They don't really usually want people to know where they're going.
Yeah, they'd definitely be followed then.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So they keep it on the down low, but they told me where they would go, and they told me what happened there and how they both saw one that had to be 9 feet tall, at least, walking around their campsite in the moonlight. And it's not like one had to convince the other. They kind of both saw it simultaneously. And the two men, and one of them had his wife with him. And so when one they see it and they don't say anything explicitly, but one asks the other, says, did you bring your gun with you? And the other guy says, yeah, I did, nervously. And the wife starts asking, why are you asking about that? What's going on? Why are you asking about that? And they're like, oh, no, nothing. No big deal.
No, yeah.
Just want to make sure we've got something. And so they knew from the size, the shape, especially there was a rock formation that it stood next to. And that's how they knew later on that this silhouette could not have been a human. And so anyway, so I heard about that, and I was very intrigued, and I got topographic maps, and I found a guy who knew how to go backpacking, like real serious hardcore backpacking, because that's what it takes to get into this area. And it's one of kind of the paradoxes of Southern California as opposed to a place like Eastern Ohio, because in Southern California, people don't appreciate how rugged these mountains are down here. They're very, very, very difficult compared to almost anywhere else in the U.S. And I've been to almost anywhere else. Just the way the mountains are shaped, and the chaparral, which creates this just like impenetrable brush with manzanita and stuff like that. So it would take the better part of a day to get there. I had to have a guy show me how to backpack. We went in there with his brother, so the three of us, and we found fresh tracks way deep in there, up by the Sespe Condor Sanctuary. And it's just this vast area that is completely bypassed by, because Southern California people want to go to the mountains, they go to the Sierras. They don't go to the Ventura Mountains. They just kind of drive past them. So this place, places like that up there are just empty of people, because you can't even, after a while, you can't even see where the trail is. It's so, forgotten.
It's rugged.
Yeah. So we found tracks. And then we heard right after that, heard knocks. And I didn't know what the knocks were at that time, but it was clear something was knocking like really loud, heavily. And then from further up the canyon, something was knocking in reply to it. Wow. And so we didn't, had no idea. Nobody, the Bigfooters had ever talked about that before that. There was never, field Bigfoot research was just all armchair research really at that stage, except for a few people. There's some armchair people that would do spend one night standing around the campfire in Bluff Creek. And that's about as, big as it would get back then. It wasn't much more than that. So anyway, that's what set it off with me from that point forward. Wow. And then it was, I can't remember the exact count. It was a number of years later of pursuing them. And I was in Ohio at that point before I finally had a face-to-face encounter. And it was after that I started the BFRO.
Right. Back in 1995 is when the BFRO began.
So, going back with what you were saying there about hearing the knocks, people don't realize how much, you call it a knock, but when you hear a real Squatch, like a good home run knock, there's no way that's a person hitting a tree with a stick. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a complete different feeling than even somebody that does a really good knock. Like Eric has a good knocker, but it's nothing compared to when you hear a real one. You know the difference.
Oh yeah. And I try to tell that to audiences, say it's like, you realize how complex the brain is and how much has evolved for situations in nature that humans just don't have to experience as much as they did in the past, long time ago in the past, such that when you're out there in the dark, in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and a Squatch is upset that you are there and it is tearing apart a tree, so you can hear that. And it's almost knowing when you hear a big Squatch tearing a tree apart, it's as if your lizard brain kind of hears that, and as if it steps up and just says, you know what? Let me drive right now.
It's time.
I think I should drive. And I'm going to take you out of here and take you away from that sound, because obviously that is a very, very big animal that can make those sounds tearing that tree apart.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh my God. And I've had the privilege of being out in British Columbia, and I heard one of these power knocks that they make out there. And I remember hearing that for the first time right from the hillside above me. And I just grabbed my camp chair. I went, oh my God. Like that.
Yeah. It's just you're kind of knowing that I could never make a sound that big and loud. So what the hell did that,
Right.
Yeah. And here in New Jersey, they're not as big. I always tell Nathan they're not as big as they are in the Pacific Northwest, you know what I mean? Or in other parts of the country. And their knocks basically just sound like, nothing fancy, but we've heard them here. It's definitely the trees here too. We had a lot of pygmy pines that are smaller, right? But on our last expedition here in the Pine Barrens, Nathan and a couple of our attendees got to hear some good knocks. Right?
Yeah, that was good. Some whoops. We were whooping back and forth and whistles. That was pretty good.
Oh yeah, one of our attendees had an hour and a half conversation with a lovesick juvenile, we call it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you about that or not, Matt, but it was really brought one of the attendees to tears. Literally, he was so impressed with what he experienced that night. He literally came on the expedition feeling like, he's probably going to go out with a bunch of yahoos getting excited over coyotes howling, and it's really.
So are you hitting? I mean, without you saying the specific locations, are you hitting the same place each time because it's really good, or
we don't hit the same place each time, but we do have a specific area. The Pine Barrens are 1.5 million acres,
Right.
But I have like 4 different areas that I research. Okay. So I tend to mix it up based on time of year. So like, it depends if I do the expedition in the spring or if I do it in the fall. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But due to certain limitations we have in New Jersey, as far as where we can have these events, that may, determine where I set up base camp. You know what I mean? And we've talked about this because it's not always so easy with the bureaucrats in this state.
Yes. But at least you're dealing with, some states are easier than others in terms of whether their state people can accommodate you or just like kind of let you slide and say, yeah, go ahead. If it's that many people, just go ahead and camp there. And, it's not even worth our time to hassle with a permit. If the 3% of the fees that they're getting does not even pay for the hassle that they'd have to go through, which is so much more than most people would realize. They think, oh, they're just like kind of reading through it and like putting a stamp on it. Oh no, it's more than that. They have to show it to other people, get particular parts of it approved by different supervisors. I mean, it's a pain in the butt.
It makes it not even worth it at that point. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's why for so long, they would just like the Rangers go, oh, you got less than 75 people? It's just like, okay, just don't make a mess and we won't say shit.
Well, me personally, I like to keep the groups under a certain amount just so we're not out there traipsing around with a bunch of people because I think it scares them off. I know some of the, places have bigger groups.
Well, I mean, the way they would deal with, the location would determine what you could do. There'd be some places in the Cascades where they, or other places where you have a much bigger group of people coming around one base camp, because then you're sending off like kind of posses of a dozen to several different places within like a 45-minute drive.
Yeah. Right.
And they're hitting all these different places on the same night to see which ones they're getting howls or knocks out of, so that we could all kind of focus our attention on the good places and ignore the bad ones.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of how we did it 2 years ago in Pennsylvania. There we had like 28 or something people,
at least
something like that.
And who led? Was that your trip, Spinner?
No,
actually,
that was
Nathan
mine.
was the organizer, and I assisted on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But we did have a lot of great activity and recorded some howls on the final night, which were awesome.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of good experiences, and Nathan really called out all the favors and got other investigators and organizers to assist. So we had some presentations like unbelievable. I had never seen like an expedition so well organized and just amazing. So Nathan and I just did the one this past September, right? And again, we had a great time. Activity wasn't as high as the last time, but we did have some results, I think.
Yeah, the weather was different, and I think we were a week early, unfortunately, but we still had some good stuff on the first night too.
Oh yeah,
so.
It was. I think I know where you're talking about.
Yes, you did.
And I remember, I felt like I really wanted to go spend more time around there to figure out where the acoustic vantage points were that would be fairly, because it's not just a matter of where they are, it's a matter of how easy is it to get to. Right. And if you would think, well, if you can figure out where it is, then you can just get right to it. Oh no, it's not quite that easy. Just because you know where the vantage point is doesn't mean you can get to it easily, especially after dark, if you've got your lights off, and especially when you've got a bunch of other people following you. You can't just go everywhere you get to every hilltop that you see. So, but in that area, I thought I got to a few, and then I looked at photos online, and I'm just like, wait a minute, where is this? I'm like, God, I wish I could have got to that point, because the reason why those vantage points are important is because if you get up there and you make sounds, howls and stuff, they carry for so much longer. And we noticed in the past too, over the years, that lo and behold, Sasquatches apparently do the same thing. They'll go up to high points to do their howls, they'll wait till the air is very quiet and very still, because when the air is very still and cold, it's the sounds. It's extraordinary how much further sounds will carry.
Oh, yeah.
So that if you're in the same spot, depending upon the weather conditions, a train in the distance, miles and miles away, like 5 miles away, can sound like it's a mile away if the air is perfectly still and things are like almost frozen. The acoustics travel so much better. So anyway, we've seen over the past, Sasquatches will go up to high points, will pick the places where they howl to be in the spot that's most advantageous for their sounds to carry the furthest. And so knowing that, that's why I always, in an area we're doing an expedition, so I'm looking, it's like, okay, where's the high points? Where's the points that we can go to howl from, or they carry the furthest, like down a canyon or across a range? And because too, if they hear the sounds coming from those vantage points, that helps trick them.
Right.
And that's what sounds authentic, because they're not going to do a big, deep, loud baritone howl from the bottom of a V-shaped canyon, because it just doesn't go anywhere. So that's not where they would do that. No, they would do that from a ridge line or a peak. Yep. A sound that's meant like a big siren, sort of big moaning howl. Yeah. And they're not going to do that from the bottom of a gorge.
No, that's where you get your whoops and your whistles and stuff, though.
Yeah, the short range sounds.
Yep.
Whoops, whistles, knocks, and stuff. That'll be in situations where they're much closer by.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And New Jersey, I have very flat terrain, so we don't really have that vantage point in South Jersey.
Yeah.
Up in North Jersey, it's a little different. Yeah.
But because it's fairly flat, if they're on an edge of a big open meadow, they know that the terrain, you're not going to have hills around that are going to block it.
Right.
So flat terrain, it does allow for the sound to carry a long way, as long as you're not doing it from an area where you're surrounded by dense trees. Ideally, what you want to do it from on flat terrain is on the edge of a lake or pond. Because
they use the bogs and stuff down there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because the sound reflects off the water. It doesn't amplify, but it helps it carry for much further than if you're just amongst a bunch of thick trees.
And that's where we did get the results, was near the bogs in South Jersey, when Nathan was with this other attendee and they had the knocks. I was also with a group at the same location where we had a tree torn down 100 yards away from where we were setting up. Okay. And it's interesting because I've come to realize that a lot of these times when, they're shaking the trees to intimidate somebody to get them out of their area, and they, break a tree, they're actually pulling it towards them. There's been some eyewitness reports where they've gone back afterwards and have found the trees were actually facing, the direction that behind where the Squatch was behind the tree. Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing applied here in New Jersey. The tree was actually broken away, like it pulled it back. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it was broken about 6.5, 7 feet up. Nathan saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would think the topography there in the Barrens, the bog areas are going to be the attractive thing. Because it's going to have so much variety of protein sources, that they will use, like frogs and tadpoles, and you're going to have turtles and snakes
and beavers and everything else.
Oh yeah. Even more insects. You've got so much more to eat. If you can, especially if you've got hands and you can dig stuff up and you don't mind walking in the water, and you've got the sort of digestive system, like omnivorous, that can eat both plants and animals, so they can go after cattails, cattail, eat that, and just like a whole variety. So yeah, whenever I'm in an area hearing about sightings, you saw me when I was in New Jersey. I'm like, look at the topo map, saying, show me those little marsh symbols on a topo map. That's what I'm looking for.
That's where we went.
And then we look at the map, and here's this thing where the whole thing is marsh symbols. Like we looked at that area by high point. I'm like, oh my God.
Matt's like, this is where we're going. And we're not leaving until we get a Squatch.
Yeah. I remember what I said. I looked at everybody and I thought myself, I didn't know what they thought when I said this. I go, you know what? I'll be really surprised if we get nothing tonight.
Right.
And of course we went there and that was just such a beautiful how we got back at us.
I actually have it set to play whenever you'd like to hear it again. I thought we could listen to it and let the viewers.
Yeah, and you probably hear my voice saying, because at first I didn't hear it, and people say, "Do you hear that? You hear that?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I held still. I'm like, "Oh my God, that's definitely a Squatch."
So, all right, so here's the recording from Matt in New Jersey with me.
Listen. What is that? Bitchin'. Stop. It's your 6 o'clock. Yeah! Shit. Fucking wall. Can I respond? No, okay. That's a Sasquatch. Watch, you won't stop. Got in your car. Let's hope it keeps coming.
I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's like 4 minutes long. Okay.
Got it.
But I mean, that was such an incredible night. I mean, we were doing the inaugural BFRO expedition in New Jersey while you simultaneously was filming an episode for Finding Bigfoot. Right.
Right.
And so you had me organize the expedition. He came out with us on Saturday night. No crew, no other cast members. And you literally, we were at base camp and you said, here's where we're going to go. We're not coming back until we hear a Squatch. And like you said, you looked at the topo map, you picked a spot. Heather stayed in the truck, if you recall, when we walked up that road up the ridge, right? And you did those 3 calls. And that's when we heard, at first you thought it was frogs. And we got the responses and you're like, that's a Squatch.
Oh yeah, very distinctly so. I remember because it's so. I mean, you heard it when they're going off. It's so unlike anything else. That kind of, almost like a cow, but a siren sort of sustain. Just
on and on.
And we're like, you just totally feel the lung capacity of that.
Oh yeah,
and it was right near the Appalachian. Remember, I said. A big marshy area within 2 miles of the Appalachian Trail. Oh yeah, yep. There's good probability there.
And it came from a ridge, from the distant ridge that was across the marsh that we were at.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's when you said, hey, I think it's coming this way. And we went down and around trying to intercept where it might come back to meet up with us,
Yeah. And then I remember looking more closely at maps. It was right next to an area where somehow jurisdictionally it's not private land, but it is completely off limits to people.
Right.
There was we didn't drive up to see if there was actually a gate in it, but it was even more protected than your average wilderness area. So I was just like, okay, I wonder if they know. I wonder if
Yeah.
like the state get people know that maybe this is like a special place that they should set aside.
It's possible.
But
I think they know more than they're telling. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I think it's that's also like on a regional basis. So it's like it's not monolithically the government, because in this case that area would have been state land. It wouldn't have been federal.
Yeah.
True. But I think different states, they might know more than others. And it may simply be that like they know that their own people have had encounters or sightings.
Sure.
And so if somebody way high up the chain completely trusts those people, knows them and trusts them, the ones that have the observations, then they might, move to set aside some land or create some special boundaries using whatever justification they need, because they probably can't say it straight out why they're doing it. They can just say this is a special sensitive habitat area.
Right.
Maybe because there's certain kind of salamanders that live there. And, we got to set aside this like 1,000 acres and never build a road into it. Yeah. Oh yeah. They can, they can find ways to do it. And it might seem a little deceptive, but it's just like, guess what? That's the way government works. And sometimes to get something done, you have to maybe make a little alteration. Just like when the UFO thing came out, they had to invent a new term that's unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP. And they've said the reason why they said that is because the term UFO has so much cultural baggage attached that they thought might get resistance from the politicians who they were asking to fund this effort. They might get resistance from them because those people might get resistance from their constituents because of that terminology.
Right.
So how do they do that? Well, they do this kind of trickery thing, but let's invent a new term, even though we mean the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Change 2 letters. Yep.
Amazing.
Right.
Well, there's an Army base right near to the south of where we were talking about in Pennsylvania too. And that's actually really probably within 3 miles of the habituation report that you sent me from lady on the BFRO Facebook page. And that's just probably 45 minutes south of where you were at the lake that night in Pennsylvania.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's an Army base just south of that, really close.
So she's kind of in the middle between where we were and the base, or?
No, she's closer to the base than she is to where we were that night. She's all the way in the south part of that mountain.
Interesting.
Yeah, right before you go into Maryland.
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned that you were there at the same time we were doing the expedition in New Jersey, because you planned it that way and you wanted to have that going on simultaneously while you were recording the Northern Jersey episode of Finding Bigfoot. Hey, that was an amazing success, right? 9 seasons, over 100 episodes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was, and it probably would have gone on longer, but there was health issues.
Sure.
And so people, well, I mean, I shouldn't go into it. I think people knew and understood
Absolutely
that there was problems in that regard. Absolutely. And people didn't know about Renee, though. They didn't know that she got Lyme disease while working on the show.
That's
and
nothing to mess around with.
No, it isn't. It isn't. But it was just unfortunate that, she got it. And, but it's the sort of thing, with that sort of thing, the rest of us might have gotten it too. Our bodies fought it off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I got it as a result of doing this. Sure.
Oh yeah.
New Jersey, the ticks are crazy.
Oh yeah. They would be there. I mean, that originated from the East Coast. It's so much more deer out. I mean, they talk about the Northwest, and I was laughing. I'm like, Northwest. I mean, go to the Midwest or East Coast sometime if you want to see deer country. Out west, there's no place in California that is as thick with deer as like West Virginia, for example.
Oh yeah,
so,
for sure. Yeah.
New Jersey's getting pretty out of control also, I have to say. I see at least a dozen every time we go out to the Pine Barrens, on the way in, on the way out. Yeah. But no, you brought up a really cool point, though, about that area with saying it potentially had some restrictions based on whatever, governmental body. Because when I was there a couple of weeks ago with my daughter and her boyfriend, we took a ride up that same ridge, okay, where you and I were. Hurricane Ian was still the remnants moving through that weekend. So I attempted to do a call from where you had done yours, okay, but of course I couldn't hear anything in the response. And then we drove further up to the top, and at the top, both sides are open because of a cut for the gas line.
Yeah,
there's actually signs there that talk about wildlife conservation, okay, and protected species and things like that. And there's like some kind of newt, I think, like an orange salamander. Okay.
Yeah.
And all they have to do is put a sign up that says that, and they can keep people out,
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they have to, and figure their heart's in the right place. So they want to, so if they want to say it in a whatever way. I mean, I've noticed in many parts of the country where they have within national forests, they have designated wilderness areas,
right,
within which you cannot hunt. You cannot ride a mountain bike. You can't you can barely do anything. You can't have a fire. It's just like these are places that are set aside for the animals.
Yeah.
In a way, that was kind of the concept of national parks too. But at least national parks are set aside for the animals. In other words, you can't hunt in there, but they are developed so that humans can go visit there. Right. Well, wilderness areas are set aside for the animals, and they don't make trails into. Well, I mean, if there's an old trail that's grandfathered in, then so be it. Mm-hmm. But they're just as happy to let all the old roads and all the old trails that had been in there before it was a designated wilderness, just let them go wild. Mm-hmm. Let them go, just let overgrown, and and they're not going to maintain the trails anymore.
Absolutely.
But those
like they do here, New Jersey, that's all what they do is they maintain all the trails. They have the fire cuts. They do the controlled burns, which is not something you see a lot about in your neck of the woods.
Right. No, they don't. They're trying. I think they're going to do more of that, like in the near future, to do more, because I know it. They are doing more controlled burns. But here, it's because of the up and down terrain. It's kind of, and the erratic winds and stuff like that. It's
going to say the Santa Anas. It makes it very
it's tricky. Yeah. It's like you literally, if you're going to set fires on a whole hillside to take rid of the fuel, you have to do it like right before a rainstorm.
Right.
You got to do it so if it burns and it gets out of control, then a rainstorm's going to come over and just completely put it out.
Because they really don't have the personnel to do a controlled burn and to, fight a wildfire at the same time.
Exactly. So it's hard to schedule way in advance when you're going to do a controlled burn out here, because it's so dependent on the weather. And there's just a lot of terrain. A lot of the places you would do controlled burns in California, you'd have to drop fire from aircraft.
Exactly.
You can't, you have to have basically squirting out like napalm, and that's how they'll do it, because you can't climb up that step. I
can't see Governor Newsom authorizing that.
Use of napalm.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's just like. And it's not necessarily napalm, but it's some kind of fluid that squirts out and it's on fire.
Yeah.
And it drops down onto the brush, and it starts a whole bunch of little fires all over the place.
No doubt. Hey, the North Jersey one, though, that we just talked about with Finding Bigfoot, that was after you had guys who come down to South Jersey, if you recall. And we actually got to film that one together. I had taken the producers out for weeks beforehand and, showed them all my areas and stuff. And we did the recreations, of course. We got some witnesses to come down. I think we had a really good, result in South Jersey, even though the Kyle, who I think you had like the track cast that Kyle had sent in, right?
Yeah, he said that, and see that, and that I was so. It was one of those instances that bugged me about the whole production, because we got there and I had assumed, like as would usually happen in the episodes, they would have their researchers go into the flats database and find the best people, witnesses for that area, for that region.
Right.
And so when I met with Kyle and I started sensing if that was his name, that something was a little odd about this one.
Mhm.
And then I finally said to the producer, I said, where did this guy come from? Does he come out of the flats? Like one of our investigators recommended him? And it's, oh, no. He came straight to us,
Mhm.
which means he went and contacted the production company.
Right.
And we all knew by that stage of the game that when a witness went and contacts the production company, as opposed to the Bigfoot Research Organization, then they're just trying to get on TV,
Right.
and it's probably a bogus report. So I'm asking those questions and hearing answers, and I know it sounds like, oh, that's pretty slipshod, just like, you're not finding out all the details before you actually get there. It's like, they don't understand. We're going from one episode, getting on a plane and going to the next one. Right. And all the preparatory work on this place that you're going had already been done in LA over the past couple of months. And there's just no way you could, and then they're already working on the next or second or third one down the line.
Right.
So I can't keep track of like every person they're talking to and every decision they're making. I just have to assume that we got enough people fired for screwing up that they actually knew what to do and what not to do. Like, in other words, not try to fake us out and not try to put in people who they knew were fakers just because they thought it'd make for better ratings. So that's when I said, okay, well, tell me about this Kyle. And they said, oh, he contacted us directly. And then I knew right then, I go, this kid's full of crap. And then we are looking at the casts of the footprints while we're out there on this cranberry bog with him. Mm-hmm. The photos, and of course, and I just took me a second to look at those. And I just looked at Cliff and just gave him the look like, this is a human track.
Right.
And it's about the same size of foot as the dude we're talking to right here.
Yeah.
Well, and I felt bad because you spent like 10 minutes of the episode with this guy, even took him out with your, POV backpacks and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, we could have had much more fun if we had gone out with him, Oh, yeah. My team had come out. But
he allowed them to do something. He gave them a justification for shooting something and had a visual, had something, because there was a lot of witnesses from the Pine Barrens that we had in the database. But what they'd always say is they need something for us to go investigate, and it's got to be visual. So it has to be a photo or a video or tracks. And
about a road crossing.
Yeah. Well, that's for later on. But the thing that has to bring us there is a visual. And you would say, well, a track isn't a visual of Bigfoot. No, but we could look at the track.
Right.
You know what I mean? We can look at the cast. So there's a visual for, they need that for us to, and that's not usually how we do it. Mm-hmm. We do it based on like witnesses, who's credible and who's not, figuring out they're on the map. It isn't like we have to have a visual thing here or else we're not going. No. So that's the way Animal Planet was. Yeah. So they thought they had a visual that gets us to South New Jersey. And then if they have some suspicion that this kid may be making up the whole thing, and maybe that's his own damn foot, that's for us to come and investigate, because it accomplishes their goal of having a reason to go to the area where they want to shoot an episode. Right. But that would make us mad. That would make me mad, because of course I would look at them and just like, you guys couldn't tell that this kid was just like yanking out. We're out here shooting it. And you're relying on, this is the whole first act of the episode. It is too late to change this now.
Do you remember with the Zaffoon? He was playing his Zaffoon and then did a call, and you're like, oh, that's just Kyle going through his vowels.
Yeah.
I didn't get my visual until the following year. This was when we got on my first Pine Barrens expedition. Cool. Right after. Yeah. So this was found by me after it had rained all night, right near base camp, So that was a lot of fun also. But hey, that's what got us together,
Yeah.
And, after doing the show, you made me an organizer, and I'm very thankful for that, because it's allowed me to go out and teach new people how to go about doing this research, and met a lot of great people, including Nathan and his family along the way.
That's right. Well, listen, I'm the only thing I would ask, and you could obviously do things whatever way you want. That's how our thing is. We let organize stuff. I just always thinking, if I was there, I would always wanting to be checking out spots that I hadn't been to before. Okay. And part of the reason is because Sasquatches do behave differently. Mm-hmm. If you're going to an area and they come at you the first time and they're stalking around your camp, they're doing certain things, they don't do exactly the same thing each time. And it's as if you try to trick them and fool them. It works really well one time. And so, and then after that, it might continue to work like there's been places where it's just been consistent over time, but usually you don't get this, it diminishes in terms of intensity. And so that what requires is finding a new group of them. And that may only be 3 or 4 miles away from where you were.
Right.
But like some new valley where you would do some sounds in and where you hadn't done sounds in before. So it's they're still going to be like, thinking that you might be real.
That's a good point. And that's exactly why I had said to you that I wanted to do the Pine Barrens in the spring this year, coming up in 2023, because I've recently spoken with 2 different individuals who own most of the land in the Pine Barrens. Okay.
Wow.
And I have gotten access to those properties.
Oh, great.
It's like, this is not government owned, you know what I mean? This is cranberry farmers. They're actually customers of mine. And I just because it's funny. The wife actually had some strange sounds.
Oh, excellent.
From behind the house.
Because that's really the way to do it. And I'm encouraging them, like if we're in a hot zone and it's mostly public land, but there's some private land grandfathered into it. Oh yeah. It's best to work from there, because like you can set up trail cameras and leave them on that private land and they're not going to get stolen.
Right.
And then you have people there who can continue to listen like after you're gone and maybe do follow-up stuff. Yep. So yeah, to connect with local landowners in, a good Squatch area is essential.
So I'm going to be doing the scouting between now and then to determine the best spots to set these things up. You know what I mean?
Oh, perfect.
But I was thrilled when I got the go ahead, and she's like, yeah, just call my daughter and tell her I said you can come on the land. You know what I mean?
Oh, great.
And we're talking
nice
cranberry bogs, blueberry fields. You know what I mean? So in June, that's when the blueberries are coming into the season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you see, it's better to do it during that than the cranberries, because the cranberry growers, they make a lot of noise when they're harvesting. You know what I mean?
Okay.
At night. Yeah. The blueberries are harvested during the day. So
what months is blueberry?
Well, June. End of June. Yeah. So I'm doing it right in the middle. So the berries will start to be coming ripe. You know what I mean? So they'll be definitely moving into this area. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, people don't understand it. It's not only because they would eat the blueberries. It's because they eat all the animals that come to eat the blueberries.
That's right.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But yeah, it's a great time to do an expedition in the Pine Barrens, and the ticks aren't real bad yet either, so that's good too. But yeah, that's just one perk I wanted to mention to you that I've
I love it. I just remember being out there, and then it was one time with you and a couple other times, and just being in a couple of those places that have like a little bit of a vantage point, and just looking out and thinking, I can't even believe I'm in America. This really feels like it should be somewhere like in South America.
Almost prehistoric.
It's so amazing out there. Just it's like it's and certainly not someplace in New Jersey. I mean, people just like make fun of New Jersey, and I'm
Forget
just like,
about it. Hey.
oh yeah. New Jersey sucks. Nobody wants to live in New Jersey. I'm just like, what part of New Jersey are you talking about? Maybe I've got lucky and been to this just like only gorgeous places in New Jersey. Right. And nice areas, but no, it doesn't all suck. You just live in a low rent place.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay.
I want to thank all our viewers and people who have stuck with us this long. I hope you enjoyed hearing our podcast tonight, and don't forget to share and like, and don't forget to support our friends at YetiBars.net. Go on and use STP10 in the checkout. Put in the code and get 10% off your order. I'm just doing our little closing thing here, but hey, we are thrilled to have had Matt Moneymaker, president and founder of the BFRO and star of Animal Planet's hit series Finding Bigfoot, with us tonight. So again, Matt, thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you on the trails real soon.
That's right.
And I thank you, both of you guys. Do a good job.
Thanks for squatching.
All righty.
What do you think of that, Nathan?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You think I should maybe cut this in half and do 2 episodes out of it, or just?
Yeah, I would.
I would.
2 hours. We're
close to 2 hours right now.
Yeah.
I'm excited. This is big in the Bigfoot community.
Yeah,
and
this is.
How many people has he done podcasts with?
That's what I just said. Besides Cliff and Bobo, nobody else in the BFRO's had him on yet.
Nobody.
Mm-mm.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's lots of things we do that get us in trouble though lately.
Indeed. You are correct, my friend. But
yes.
Hey, the key is we're having fun. And tonight is going to be especially fun. I have a feeling. So should we invite him to join our conversation?
Ah, yes.
I should actually send him the invite, right? That would help.
He's probably waiting for it.
Holy crap. Shit, my light won't come back on now. What do I do? Come on, you bitch.
I should at least wear my Pennsylvania BFRO shirt, shouldn't I?
Well, that's what I was thinking you would wear, but I'm not telling you what to do.
You get your light working. I'll walk away for a minute, I think. I got new headphones.
Nice. Good timing.
I got a mixed bag out there.
Wow, you just got real loud. Yeah.
Hello.
Maybe, you know what? Hold on. You know what? Maybe it's my volume. Go ahead, talk.
Hello. How are you tonight? What are we doing? Do you like my headphones?
Yeah, they're pretty cool. It's better to be too loud than not loud enough. How am I sounding?
Good.
Testing 1, 2, 3. I just turned it up a little bit because that's where I had the gain before, and it's been good.
Yeah. You know? No, it sounds fine. These are new headphones too. That's the other thing. They're a lot crisper than my old ones. I don't know. I don't have a suggestion yet, but
I could say, hey, here's a man who needs no introduction.
Everybody knows everything about him.
Yeah. I mean, when Dixie interviewed him, he had all the questions beforehand.
Right. I don't plan on it. I plan on asking him different questions, though.
I even have the pillow.
Cliff, yeah.
Matt Moneymaker signatures on that pillow. And I got it right here, too. I can be, I've always been the brown noser of the bunch.
I'm not going to deny that. Yeah, I know.
I'm all Twitter, as you would say.
I'm all at Twitter, yeah. I haven't been at Twitter for a while. Better on this side or that side?
Do the other one again. I that side.
Like this?
I don't know. I mean,
the other side, you can see the footprint.
Yeah, I like the footprint. You're right. Now I just bring it back into Movie Maker, edit it, and then save it as an audio file and then convert it. And it's ready to upload.
SoundCloud.
Thank you. See, that's why I keep you around. That's Matt.
I sort of heard it. That you can hear.
What?
That's loud.
You can hear it?
Very loud.
Good. That's Dave Bueller pissing. Ow. It's queued up where we want it, I think. How's my volume now?
Now you sound good.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Should I respond? No.
That's beautiful. Isn't it this way? This way. This way. This way. This way. It's a Sasquatch.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Squatch Talks Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and give us a like, and stay tuned for more exciting stories on Squatch Talks.